GSL SuperTournament Season 1. Africa TV Free Cup Studio Live. 2021 GSL SuperTournament Season 1.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of the GSL Super Tournament. It's good to finally be back. And yesterday kicked ass. Day 2 might be even better.
Yeah. Yesterday, it was a very long day, actually. Only the last match was quick, but everything else...
About 5 hours.
Yeah. The first 3 matches really took a long time and were very, very entertaining. Had some really great results. All the Zergs are dead. Our last one playing today. We'll see if he can do anything. But really interesting matches here today as well. But there's the one match that I felt coming in wasn't going to be that close, but I also thought that DRG Dream was going to be close, but that wasn't close at all.
Yeah, that was one of the matches I was so confident would be close and long, and it was not the case at all. So yesterday, the players who advanced, we saw Trap, Innovation, SOS, and Dream move on. SOS kind of squeaked by against Byun. Byun had a play style. It seemed to be almost from a different era. It was very much his own older style, a little bit modernized. It did not manage to work against SOS. Dream smashing DRG, as you mentioned earlier. Innovation with an insane comeback. Solar was up 2-0 and then bounced back. And Trap, looking to maybe be the strongest player in the tournament, advanced 3-1.
Yeah, he did look absolutely ridiculous. I think the comeback from Innovation yesterday was a big high point as well yesterday. So here's our matches for today. We have a Protoss in each match, so we do have that really exciting thing that can happen where we have 4 Protosses on this side of the map.
That's what I want, Artosis. Let's see what goes down here. You're completely correct. There is a Protoss in each of these matches. If you're a Protoss player, today is your day for studying. We're going to start things off with Armani versus... Now, we've been calling him Zoun, and I thought we were close to being right, but it's actually...
Zoun, or something close to that. So here's the thing. It's a Chinese name of a heroic warrior from, like, the year 300. But the funny thing, I actually looked up the actual way to pronounce the actual Chinese name, and it's really far away from anything that we can say with our American mouths.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, the way that it's kind of translated is like Zoun. And if you look at the way he spells his name, this is like a romanization of Korean letters that would make that sound. But when you actually read it, as an English-speaking person, it says Zoun.
Yeah.
So it's just like, this poor ID has been through the ringer.
Yeah, we basically paid telephone with this ID through many an alphabet, many an accent.
Yes. And the thing is, we've had stuff like this before, but this is the first time we've had it from Chinese to Korean to English. Do you remember the player known as Vines?
I do.
So there was a player, his ID was VINES in all caps.
Right.
And so we called him Vines. This was in like GSL Season 2 or 3 or something.
Really early on, first year of the show.
He told the producers, he's like, no, my name is Finesse. And it was like, it's actually not.
Yeah,
okay, that's an English word, and Vines is an English word.
Yeah.
Okay,
some of these letters have to make certain sounds.
Yeah. and he wanted us to call him Finesse, but it's like, no, your name is Vines, unless you want to change the spelling. But it was the same type of thing where it's like Korean letters.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually, it can come out like that if you Romanize directly from the Korean letters.
Alphabet postmodernism, if we don't follow some kind of rules and structure here.
Anyways, there you go. It's so it's going to be Zoun going up
Joan.
Yeah, going up against
Z-Dog.
Armani. Z-Dog. That's the
Big J. Big J, we might call him.
Big J.
Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing, because in Chinese romanization, it's Z-H-A-O.
The Zhao.
U.
Yeah.
No, Y-U-N. That's it. Yeah, it's from the Three Kingdoms books.
Captain Z. I don't know what to call him. We'll try. We'll see what happens here.
Z.
Yeah. This is going to be him versus Armani, of course. Our game is now ready. Game 1 will be on Pillars of Gold. Let's go.
Game start. Alpha X. Zoun.
Oh, see, now
Zoun.
the GSL voice got it wrong, too. So
Well, that's the only one I know isn't right.
yeah. Everybody's saying it a different way.
Africa Freaks. Armani.
So we were formed by the staff here. Head writer noticed that Armani has actually not won a game in Super Tournament.
0-6 so far.
0-6.
Yeah.
So this is Armani's 3rd Super Tournament. You know, it's just off of those numbers, it's hard to imagine that he'll advance, but let's see if he wins some games. I think this actually can be closer. Zoun has really shown, he's showing some really strong modern Protoss play, and Protoss seem to be quite strong right now.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a lot better, which is nice to see. Do you have one player you favor here?
I mean, I think Armani's good. I don't think he's going to make it. I'd favor his opponent.
Okay. I think it's fair. I mean, yeah. A Dizzle, though, over here, did make a top 4 of GSL.
That is true. That was a crazy time, but let's see if he can actually bring that over here. That was a funny-looking bracket, to be honest, and excuse me. And yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Protosses are really crushing through here.
Yeah, and like taking a look at, you know, when the metagame settles in StarCraft 2, like whenever we have a new patch or, you know, new maps to a lesser extent, we have a lot quicker games overall because a lot of things go right, a lot of things go wrong, a lot of mistakes are made, and people aren't exactly sure how everything will go, so basically players die. But as things settle, it's basically like a meter. Like as Stats' games improve, like as he rises to the top of tournaments, games just take longer because the metagame is settling, and we're getting in these positions where it's like you can kill each other early on in this matchup, both sides, but it's getting less and less likely. Everyone's getting better and better at defending everything, so it's like pushing it towards the end game. And it does feel like, especially watching Traps games, really properly played from the Protoss side, it seems pretty darn hard for Zerg to beat that end game army right now. With the, I think the feedback going back up in range was a real big help there.
Yeah, I think also it's important to point out that the early game in StarCraft 2 is actually generally pretty padded for any of these, like, you've both expanded, but now I'm going to try to do a rush to you and kill you. Pretty hard to actually close that one out. I mean, the handling of all the units, the way that the UI system operates, if you have two players at like Codes level like these guys are, the guy defending just does have an advantage, and it's not that taxing to execute the defense. I mean, we do still see stuff like yesterday we saw 3 barracks in the middle of the map, and that is one build and one strategy that is, it's so amplified that the defender really is burdened to try to hold that off perfectly. But
well, I think, and here, I mean, we have a Void Ray coming out, and we'll definitely keep an eye for something exciting and interesting.
We're still waiting for this game to develop a little bit more.
But actually, and this is something I've talked about a lot, teaching people about StarCraft 1 and mech versus bio in StarCraft 1 as a Terran against a Zerg. But like, basically, Terran versus Zerg, and that's in this game is... Oh, hold on. He's going to get a lot of drones here. Okay, so already 3 drones going down. Really nice. 4 drones. Couple lings. 3 lings. 3 lings, 5 drones. That's insane.
And both these adepts got out. You can see now it's going to be able to kill off a few more of these lings. This is a lot of value, especially as this Void Ray comes in here. Even that one adept not being killed off just yet, shading away.
Absurd damage. That's
I'm a little bit surprised to see... I'm not surprised to see an attack from Protoss like that. I'm surprised to see that much stuff get killed off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're almost always seeing the double shaded.
Yeah, and you're always seeing about 2 to 3 drones killed, but 5 is quite a bit, even getting some more as we're seeing this Oracle come in. Oh, excuse me, actually that turned into a Spore for a split second.
Now there's more Voids being made, as well as the second Stargate, and now a third base. So it looks like it is going to be this Void Ray-based strategy. We'll see how Armani wants to play against it. We saw from Dark, he was very hesitant to go into Hydralisks right away, was much more about the Queen and Fester. He did try an all-in one time against it, which didn't work as well.
It does seem like the Void Ray, in a lot of ways, is this unit. It's got many functions. I mean, one is that it basically keeps these third bases safe. You're not really moving across the map to try to kill the Zerg, and so even though it doesn't kill lings that fast, if you're incrementing them out one by one, it makes defense manageable from a lot of different stuff, lings or roaches. Ravagers are not effective against a Void Ray that is being micromanaged. But you can also build it up over time and fill that in with the rest of your tech later on. We mentioned yesterday, and I don't think we've really talked about Protoss like this, or StarCraft like this in a while, but a lot of times Protoss is in this matchup, but other matchups as well, will fill in the core tech first, or build the core tech first, and then fill that in later on with more of the tier 1 stuff that complements and pairs with that. And I think the Void Ray in this case, through a chunk of the early and mid game, is a unit that has a lot of viability and can pair well with an army in fights.
Yeah, it does really well. I think that, and it can be used end game, but I think it doesn't scale super well into end game.
No, not
eventually. It's pretty hard countered, but occasionally you go back into it.
Right. Well, it also it mutes a lot of options from the Zerg, right? I mean, a lot of Roach Rushes won't work. Looks like Lings are being made in mass, by the way, so let's see how this actually does. Yeah, he made a lot
of Roaches and Queens also, so it looks like Armani is going to do an all-in.
This is like what we saw yesterday here from Dark. You know, once you see the Queens moving off creep in groups like this, it's a clear signal that they are committed. Now, I'm curious to see how this is going to be held by Protoss.
Honestly, I think it looks like Armani has actually canceled doing it. He made a decent amount of Roaches and Lings, but maybe he saw something with that Overseer where it's like, yeah, I guess I'm actually not going to be able to kill this because he's retroning now.
Yeah, the Queens are coming back. Tree. There is no third base yet here for the Zerg. You need to get a fourth up eventually. Yeah, it's kind of funny to see him shift gears back into macro play. Everything else did signal that he was getting ready for an attack. So he invested into a decent amount of Lings and Roaches. It is going to wait on using them. I think this has to be a comfortable moment right now for the Protoss. Protoss continuing to tech up. We've got the 5 gates coming down. Disruptors are being incremented out. The Templar Archives is going to be close to halfway finished here. So a lot of the key tech that Protoss needs to fight a Zerg is on the way.
He's actually going to be on 9 or 10 gates here with Disruptors and Void Rays. So that feels pretty solid. Honestly, if you're adding this many gates as opposed to working on air upgrades, an attack's coming. Like, Zoun is going to move out. He's going to try to kill Armani.
Yeah.
Psystorm on the way here.
And this has been a very comfortable game for the Protoss overall.
Yeah.
I mean, Protoss is basically getting to, besides the initial attack that was effective, but I would say not, game ending in any way. It was a nice attack. He killed some drones. He's basically been able to tech up as much as he wanted. Now, I thought we were actually going to see a 3-base push here, but a 4th is being thrown down here.
Yeah, that throws me off a little bit to add that many gateways but not be working on endgame tech.
Yeah, I thought this was a setup for a 3-base push where you come in, you've got all the right tools. Zerg is not developed in a way that can actually cope with what's coming at him.
Maybe he's just no, I don't know. He would have moved out already. So I am a little bit confused. I guess he didn't actually. He's not like consistently producing out of all the gates that he made yet.
Yeah, he threw the gates down, but he hasn't been mass warping in.
Yeah, like
I mean,
look,
we have like 2 zealots, 3 adepts.
Yeah, he could be very close to the supply of Armani right now.
Each gateway's made 1 unit.
Basically, yeah.
I think he was ready. I guess you can also throw the gates down, and then you have the ability to warp in as your 4th is being taken if it's a threat. You know, one thing about Protoss production, because when you have this many gates, it's like a faucet you can turn off and on. You don't need to have everything flowing out immediately.
That's a good point.
The reboot time for the gateway is pretty quick. And so you can almost just make the gateways, and then, you know, it's like if emergency break glass. Like, okay, he's attacking me. Let me start warping in waves of stuff. I'll hold that.
Well, I think you nailed exactly why he did it. We don't see people play like that all that often, especially with a strat like this where he had 3 or 4 disruptors and like 8 void rays, and then he adds the gates. It's like, what could possibly come that you need those for? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like I think the Zerg attacking right now would be quite foolish indeed. So,
you know, it doesn't seem like there's a good reason for the Zerg to want to attack in here. Now, because of the way that Armani's played this, he's stayed even on bases with the Protoss. They've expanded together. That is not the way we normally think of a Protoss versus Zerg game going. Normally the Zerg is outpacing the Protoss as the Protoss tries to rein that in and control him, but the matchup's a different matchup now. I am curious to see, though, if this is proper or a little bit too conservative from Armani.
Yeah.
We're just back in StarCraft 2 here, 2021. We need many more games to develop in front of us before we really can get a feel for where things are at. But right now, just from what I'm used to doing, this seems a little bit slower on the Zerg side.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And as far as Zoun goes, like, he has his own style, and I definitely very much respect that. The way he's playing this, though, I do get just slightly confused on. Is he going to go like 2 groups? Is this what we're going to see? Because it feels like he has a lot of overlap with his units, like making carriers and immortals at the same time. It's not generally 2 units that are made together, right? They kind of counter the same things.
Nice harpooning here by Armani, completely destroying those disruptors. Now we've got zealots over here. I don't think there's lurkers there, but I think with that much defense, you might not be able to attack in there with just zealots anyways.
Well, when you're on this few bases, you know, you talked about how he didn't really expand all that quickly, but one thing to be said about that, when you're on 4 bases, you can go defend in like 2 seconds, right? Like,
yeah.
You're not ever that far out of position. Well, a lot of infestors on the way, Neural as well. Roach is trying to get traded, but trading pretty inefficiently.
Yeah, I think he definitely does want to get rid of these Roaches. They're not going to be handy as far as supply goes later on. We see Bro now being upgraded. And this has, I think, been maybe our most passive game we've casted of the year so far. I mean, I know it's day 2, but this is way more passive than anything else that happened yesterday.
Yeah, it's super passive.
Barely been anything that's happened here on either side.
Yeah, and actually, I was starting to talk about that, and then we saw the Adepts jump in and actually get pretty amazing damage early on. Oh, he's getting the Tempest upgrade. I love that. I was talking about that yesterday, how I actually really like it when people add in like 4 Tempests with the carrier army. But he's kind of getting everything right now. But yeah, I do want to mention that a little bit, because I actually have some real thoughts on like things like this, right? Like, why are we seeing not that much happen? They're just kind of bouncing off each other with their tech, where it's like, well, I go to this, now you go to that, now I go to this, now you go to that, and we can't really kill each other. It's because there's not really that much play with these units.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at TVZ, TVZ is generally considered amongst both StarCraft games to be like one of the really entertaining matchups. Oh, hold on, he's doing an attack. These guys just won't let me talk. But basically, there's more things happening, right? Like Marines, for instance, there's so much micro potential. There's so much maneuvering. It's harder to have the exact same amount of units every single game, right? So it doesn't really get figured out. There's just so many things that can happen. Whereas when you're doing something like this, where it's like, okay, you're making 8 Void Rays, it's not like you're making 8 Void Rays, but you also have like 9 units that can be microed super heavily for extra damage.
Yeah, the Void Rays stop a lot of other possibilities from coming into play here. but they also don't, I think, lend themselves to a lot of fast development with everything else
Yeah,
either. It kind of slows the whole game down.
A big question is how much active play is there? Like, mutas have a huge amount of their active units. They're all over the place. Medevac's active units all over the place. In this matchup, we don't really see... You don't ever see, like, mutas as harassment tools. You might see a few lings, but then, like, they have a cannon up and it's done or whatever. And then, as far as Protoss goes, it's like, yeah, you have your first 2 Adepts and then, you know, maybe an Oracle.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can't get that much done.
Okay, there's a pretty crazy push coming through here. Now, the Infestors are coming forward here. I like that, doing the splash damage on top of those carriers. She's going to pull them in here now and pick them off. And we're seeing, you know, this is reflecting some of the play that we saw yesterday as far as using the Infestors to then target key units in the fight, use them to damage and chase away the Protoss army, and then pull that army into the rest and have them fight it out there.
Yeah. We just saw Zoun getting disruptors now to help deal with those Infestors, so that'll be some counterplay to try to blow them up when they neural everything. Greater Spire is on the way.
Same themes as yesterday, where you can see once the Zerg is teched up to this phase of the game, they're very hard to break. You know, Spores and Spines don't cost supply, of course, and then you have, you know, besides the transfuses and everything else, you can have Lurkers, you can have Infestors behind that just sort of whittle down and slow down any other type of development over there. And so this is, I think, slowly becoming a game where it seems like it's going to be pretty hard for either side to really crush the other. It doesn't seem like Armani is that keen on actually pushing out either. He seems to want to stay back and bank up quite a bit of resources. A lot of times in games like this, both sides, when they do clash, will have so much banked up that they can actually remake an entirely different army that might be able to counter what the other side has.
Yeah, I think that this is one of those games where we're reasonably likely to get up to that 10K bank.
Yeah.
We saw some yesterday. I like this little Baneling attack, though. I like that type of idea coming out of Armani. Is that going to be a valuable thing for a game, though, that is likely to go 30 to 40 minutes? Right? You're using a lot of gas to kill a lot of minerals, and really gas is what ends up running out for the most part.
Yeah, Armani's going to dive in on this, but you do make a good point, Artos. It's not exactly like this is a location that Protoss can't just send his army back and reclaim, right? I mean, let's say that they were both extremely low on resources and this was destroyed and there were no other bases with minerals on the map, but then we'd have a different situation. But this game, pace-wise, has slowed down to a crawl.
Yeah. This is the type of game where the map might get mined out.
Yeah.
Where we actually might have every geyser empty. So it's like, okay, well, how do we want to actually spend this money?
Yeah. Couple things going on here. I mean, that's a lot of gas that he spent crashing into a Nexus that is, it's just 400 minerals.
Yeah, it's not.
The probes are pulled away. I mean, I think in no real way are you getting that much value out of there. And so that's going to be reclaimed. We had a little bit of a skirmish where the Templars were casting feedback there on the...
You took out quite a decent chunk of them, though, with those fungals, too.
It was nice.
Yeah.
But I think they just both fill back up their supply, and I think the game kind of goes on from here.
Yeah, yeah. It's like really hard to call who's winning this, right? Because they both have like a lot of things that can still occur here. Like, how do they decide to use their units? A little attack coming in here with the Hydras. Going to try to pick off all the pylons. Kind of annoying right there. But again, is this like that useful?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean, I guess the problem that we're facing here in a game like this is that neither side can really, in this case, the Protoss can't really engage the Zerg without losing a certain amount. The Zerg can't really engage the Protoss without essentially giving up enough of the gas resources, in this case, Banelings, to really do anything. And then the number of Banelings it seems to cost to kill the cannons and get you close to the Nexus is more than the actual value of the Nexus, particularly at the pace of the game.
Yeah.
So we have another fight coming here. You know, one of the things that makes it so tricky for Protoss is the sheer number of spores you can have. It makes it basically a no-fly zone for the interceptors.
Yeah. And You just have to try to chunk through it, right? It's tough, and we see when he comes up, it's just like Neural's shooting out, stealing units, and like, what did he kill there? He killed like a Lurker and like 2 Spores or something, but he loses 2 Archons. Well, I mean, that's good for Armani again, right? That's 600 gas of units. He is trying to utilize the disruptors to make this a bit more efficient. It's tough, though.
It seems to me like Protoss almost has to play the game of preemption. Like, don't let them actually get the hatchery up. Because once they've got it, this is actually an old idea on StarCraft 2. There's certain matchups, and this is one of them. This happens actually in Brood War PvZ as well, where if there's certain spots somebody gets an expansion up, it's like, you can't get in there now.
Yeah.
You know, there's
actually, you said something really smart about that last year that I actually went home and wrote it down. It's something to the effect of, like, sometimes you just can't kill a base.
Oh, yeah, you just
where
give
it's
up on
like,
it,
yeah, and that's a real thing. Sometimes you should look at a position and say, yeah, I can't kill that, and then you're like, all right, so they have that.
They have that now.
Just leave it alone.
It's going on for even longer. Now, here we go again. Same idea. It's like, how much gas is that? And this one's on probes that he's not moving.
Yeah. That doesn't feel to me like a good long-term investment for a game.
Everything felt wrong about that.
Yeah. It's like, if this is in the mid-game of a scrappy game where you guys are trading army all the time, okay. If we're in a situation where it's likely that that will get mined out anyways, not as much. All right, some Tempest going to be added in. I do like that quite a bit. Broodlords and Corruptors added in with this Viper set. Which, okay, let's see how he plays that out. More Corruptors being made.
The War Prism staying back here. I don't know if that's going to have much use. It looks like Zerg is going to get the last base, and now we're in split map. This map organically cuts itself in half. There's no real up in the air bases. There's no base in the center, for instance, where maybe this, the final fight comes to this. So,
do you think that would help actually for PvZs like this? If you had like a base in the center that's like so hard to hold, but it has resources?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I would think so.
I could see that like forcing
some kind of a fight. Well, the thing is, the Zerg didn't overexpand ahead of the Protoss here, so this is not the normal meta, at least as far as us casting this, where we say, well, the Zerg is going to mine out first because he expanded the most. Well, so I'm not sure exactly. By the way, eventually we're going to see our Protoss probably give up a couple more probes. I think that you're probably better off having more Templars and carriers. I guess the answer is actually carriers here.
Well, you remember the Fist of Neeb, right?
The Fist of Neeb.
The 199 supply army.
Yeah.
1 probe and 199 of this type of stuff.
If he kills that probe, it makes an observer. It's the fist and the forearm of
Yes,
Neeb.
That's right. Neeb, the only player to take down Rogue on Rogue's championship year at BlizzCon.
That's right.
With the Fist of Neeb.
So it seems like Protoss is itching to try to take out the upper left quadrant of the map. But again, I mean, this is a real war of attrition. I mean, these guys have both set up and are defending so heavily. It's just hard to get in there. I mean, when your main obstacle is structures.
Yeah, when you're trying your best to pick off some spores, and your opponent is actually picking off units during this, that is not a high-quality trade.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to make a very, very strong move here. Because it feels like he's actually playing into what Armani is doing.
I think you're probably right. I'm not sure what exactly Protoss needs to do otherwise, though, to fix this. Other than to maybe not try to play a drawn-out game. But
I tell you, I have some ideas, like, to start us out right. Like, you can do things like have a mothership and a nexus on opposite sides of the map to do recalls back and forth to nail areas. You do things like 2 speed prisms fly into the main base and snipe tech. You know, I think moves like that would be more useful than trying to kill spores. Like like even if he succeeds in getting through these spores, so he's killed like 3 spores but lost like 5 gas units now. even if he succeeds getting through here, that base is going to be mined out by the time he does it, you know? Okay, there you go. Those were some nice feedbacks.
Okay, so not bad. The Broodlords are starting to get whittled down here. Keep in mind the Infestors, you know, they can't regen the energy as easily, so it's really important to watch them in these fights, especially if feedbacks occur down on them. Looks like they're all wiped out here. Now,
Wow.
hold on.
Yeah, no, they're going for it right now. A lot of parasitic bombs going down, but he needs more than that.
Zerg definitely lost that fight.
Yeah, and
Problem
he
is,
just got the shields off the Protoss army.
Yeah, we have some more Interceptors remaking. Looks like he wants to just come back up here, group up again. Templars are going to be used to fill in. And I like the fact that more Tempests are getting incremented in as time passes.
I feel like it's much cleaner micro, right? Because you throw out the disruption balls, and then they have to sit there till they go off. And a lot of the times we're seeing them like yoinked in.
Right.
Whereas with the Tempest, you can just like do your volley and then back up. And if you keep tagging with the Oracle, you can do things like that right there, right? Pick off a Broodlord from even further away.
Okay. Some more shots coming out here. Now, again, if Protoss can break this, and look, it looks like it's the same armies again, but you got to look at the bottom here. Protoss traded effectively, particularly when it comes to gas. Zerg is almost spent. It's almost down to 0. And let's say that Protoss wins another engagement here and forces a lot more gas units out. That's going to hit 0 very fast.
Yeah, Armani having a hard time keeping that gas around. We saw some nice play right there. He stole a Disruptor and tried to get the High Templars. It didn't really work. Wow, some good storms going down. Does do a couple more steals with the Neural. I think he has enough Corruptors to clear this. Does he not?
No, I don't think he does.
There's so many parasitic bombs on everything. All the shields are gone. Like, if he's doing that, he has to dive on them when the shields are gone. You can't let him go back and heal.
Is there a Templar under this?
No, he already lost them all.
Lost them? Okay, yeah, I don't see one here.
Ooh, those are like really low. I feel like you are supposed to attack here.
I don't think he's quite got...
I think he's got enough, man, to kill it all.
Thing is, now Protoss is breaking through here, killing the drones. This actually may be the
He's targeting
the final
He's
push.
not targeting.
Here we go. Stalkers are going to come in here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Protoss wins. From here, the upper left is accessible. We have a mix of Lings and Lurkers coming in. The carriers, though, I'm not sure if the Stalkers can kill the Corruptors just yet, but no matter how you cut it, Protoss can remake, rebuild.
Yeah, there's like
and
nothing
come through.
left here for Armani.
Wow, impressive first game here. Almost a half an hour of just like back and forth fights over this no man's land where eventually, almost like a long arm wrestling match over time, Armani, it just doesn't have enough to hang on, is broken.
Well, I think Armani, his like supreme late game ZVP, there's some mistakes he's making, like the Banelings we pointed out several times. I don't think that's a good play.
Very wasteful.
The Broodlords on the defense, I think that's redundant. You don't need that. The Broodlords are much easier to pick off than every other unit that you have. The Lurkers are just going to do a better job. So I think he was just like a little bit wasteful. We even saw the Hydra attack where it's like, oh, this was not, you're like killing cannons with Hydras.
Yeah.
Like that's not the trade you're looking for.
No, I mean, it just, minerals, when you go to super late game, in this matchup, minerals are not as valuable as gas units. And although the Baneling is one of the best units in the game, when you get to super end game, it doesn't give you the same kind of value, especially not when you're killing bases.
Yeah, no, it's more of a tempo unit.
Yeah.
Alpha X, Zoun. Afrika Freaks, Armani.
So we had, I think, and look, I know it's been 2 days, but that's the most passive game we've seen. That was a very, very slow game. I mean, we did have the little harass with the Adepts early on, but that's basically going to happen almost every game. Really, though, it was a game where both sides were playing defense. The map was consumed on each side, but a lot of the decisions that Armani was making, he was behaving almost as if he was in a neck-and-neck fight over territory.
Yeah.
He treated those Banelings as if it's a counterattack to the Protoss, where they're going to lose something and have to turn around, when in reality he just pulls the probes away, the Nexus explodes. Gas is gone forever now. Baneling's going into a structure to destroy it. It's remade, and you saw in the very end, whose gas ran out first? It was Armani's by a lot.
Yeah.
It's gas that could have gone into Corruptors or Infestors, Vipers.
Different levels of efficiency are required for different parts of the game in different situations. Like, cost efficiency is sometimes everything, like in a game we just saw, because that turns into like, okay, we're both literally mining half the map, so who's more efficient actually chooses who wins.
Right.
And then you have games where you can actually play completely inefficiently. We see some of these, especially when we had that short time in the meta where like Zerg vs Terran was Ling Bane. And we saw games where like Dark would make 80 Banes and just literally roll through everything.
Yeah.
Right? That's inefficient, but he has that tempo advantage, and he can pay for that because he has so many bases. He just needs to be explosive, killing everything, right? And in a game where it's not all about efficiency, those Baneling attacks would have been really good, right? If we're playing like just ground armies against each other and you're doing some counters and trying to hold on to bases and you're killing his probes, and then suddenly, you know, Jones dropping down to 40 probes and he's like, oh crap, I can't really replace my army now. I gotta counter. Yeah, those are great moves. But like we see there, it's like, well, you just have to make your money last longer. Your units do more. And the Baneling is the one unit that won't do more for you. You use it one time only. Yeah. It's like a Band-Aid. You don't reuse a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's it's funny. It's really the only unit where it's a one-time use, and you're either going to get a lot out of it or you're going to lose a lot because it didn't connect with anything.
Yeah, it's like that in the mothership.
Yeah. So this game, in appearance, is looking pretty similar to what we saw.
Yeah, it is.
In the last game, where the Void Ray is going to come out. It does seem like the Void Ray negates a lot of the stuff that Zerg might want to try.
Yeah.
Now, let's not forget, we talked about it for like 30 seconds, and we thought it was going to be a big deal, and then it wasn't. But it looked like Armani was actually gearing up for an all-in.
Yeah,
he had his queens ready to go. He made a bunch of Lings and Roaches, and then he stopped.
Well, maybe this time he'll actually go for it after experiencing that late game. You know, this Void Ray build. Oh, look at this. Oh, I like what I'm seeing actually out of Armani here. He's throwing down an Evolution Chamber. I bet you he starts melee with that.
Maybe.
I think that could be an interesting play. That at one point that was the counter to double Stargate plays. Now we don't know if this is going to actually be double Stargate. We'll see. Yep, he just canceled a Void, started a second Stargate. So slightly different ordering for Zoun this game. Oh, it's actually a carapace upgrade. Okay. But I was going to say, like, +1 melee used to be a really good build against double Stargate builds, because Stargates, it's like they don't really deal with Lings that well, right? Void Rays want to fight bigger units.
Yeah, Void Rays want to target like a Roach or a Ravager or something like that, but a lot of Lings, it's just too many targets to eliminate, and the Lings are going to deal damage much more quickly than the Void Rays could defend.
But yeah, this particular build, and we're seeing it pop up a lot, I think Zest was the first one that showed us this in GSL last year, but the Void Ray third base type of thing where you have at least 2 Stargates, it gives you such a clear path to endgame as Protoss. It's like, it's a very clear path to 4 bases, splash damage, and carriers, that it kind of almost automatically sets us into this situation where the Zerg can't really attack you because you're safe against everything, but your army is not good at attacking. So you can't attack. So it becomes this kind of laid-back game where everyone gets everything that they need and want. And we get one of those really slow games, like you said, a very passive game where each side is just building up.
Here comes
it's not like you can do extra fancy things with these Voids, right? Okay, he came up and he's denying those rocks. Is there something else he can do now that's like a fancy move? No. It's a Void Ray.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything tricky you could try to pull off, really.
It's not that many tactics.
It's sort of a fix-all.
Yeah.
You know, beefy enough. Nothing picks it off right away. It can shoot air. It can shoot ground. Especially on like a map like this, but actually, frankly, most of our maps, because of the speed of the unit, it can get to where it needs to be quick enough. You'll even see when they feel like the game's going to be perhaps too quiet, they can come across the map and maybe poke, get a creep tomb or something like that.
So Hydralisk then coming down rather quickly. +2 carapace started up as well. Yeah, it looks like he's actually going to start upgrading some Hydras. So that is one way we've seen people play this, but the natural counter to the Hydras is just getting Psystorm out. You know, that's kind of what Zest's original build, it looked like it was based around, is like you make a bunch of Voids that forces Hydras, and then you have Psystorm for that.
Yeah.
And then it's like Zerg is just sitting there with Hydras, which are not all that great against Psystorm. Oh, he actually makes a couple of Archons. That's kind of interesting.
Huh. I feel like if he's making Archons, he is going to attack. This looks more like it's going to be a timing here.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
this is definitely going to be a timing. This is what I think we thought was going to happen in Game 1 until he took the 4th base. He threw the gates down, and then he expanded and stayed back. So a small variation. It's a funny thing to say, but this build initially looks just like the last one, but when you get to late game, the intentions are very different. This is Zealot Archon. This is going to have the ability to burst through a lot of units. It's not going to be splash damage from Storm, but instead it's just going to be a lot of strong melee attackers.
Okay, he is actually going to come down to defend. I was wondering if he was trying to give that base up and just saying, you know, screw it, I'll hold on up here. But no, he comes down for the attack. Void Ray's getting in here on top of everything. The Archon's dealing a ton of damage. Some good Biles come down. He does void them.
Okay, we see the Zealots beginning to disappear. The Archon's still doing just fine here, not taking any real damage as gracefully each line of Zealots filters through. And this is just going to be, I think, too much. We're now in the middle of a lot of the rally points here. A lot of these roaches not able to group up and get into a fight that they would want to take here. A pull away here is going to target down this hatchery. It will go down. More Archons coming. And I'm not even sure the Protoss has to pull away. He might, but I think he's actually welcome to keep pushing.
Yeah, yeah. And that is exactly what he's going to do. He gets in on top of absolutely everything. A couple Spores here doing some good damage overall to the Voids, but turns them on, starts targeting down some of these roaches. And I think, like, Armani might just barely live through this.
Yeah,
but even if he does, the damage might be too high.
Yeah, I think it could have been handled a little bit better, but I get the idea of just having the Void Rays try to obliterate everything. This should actually be too much.
Yeah.
Especially when you take over the second and there's 3 bases, the rally points are all screwy.
The Archons did a great job there.
Yeah.
He actually only ended up losing, well, I guess he remade more Archons during it, but like,
I think he lost
even
2.
the Warpin rounds where he was making High Templars to morph into Archons, that's a lot slower than making Zealots, so that was like a cool choice.
It is, it was funny to see right as the Zealots are about to disappear, the next wave come in. You know, the AI targets the attacking unit in front of it. So the Zealots are always going to be the target as long as you can fill them in. Especially in fights like that, it's very hard to micromanage in the sense of like targeting over that without them pulling the Archon away, and then that game happens. But right now, Zoun, I think is how we say it. Not Zoun, Zoun. Zoun is up 2-0.
Joan of Archon over here.
Whoa, does that mean his base, we call that Jonestown? Guys, game 3, Oxide, let's go.
Game start. Alpha X, Zoun. Afrika Freaks, Armani.
You know, I think that was it was really nice because the two builds looked so similar.
Yeah, I thought honestly when we started casting it, he was going to do the same thing. I was primed for it.
yeah. He you know, he didn't go for disruptors. He just went directly into it. Also, he changed his ordering. Instead of second Stargate, third Nexus, he went third Nexus, second Stargate. So there were definitely some little tiny differences. But as Armani, it's like, how do you read that? Each Protoss probably has his own little way he tweaks this build. So it's a good mix-up, I think, from Joan. He's looking really strong.
Now, what's going to happen in Game 3? Is there a third branch in this Void Ray Turtle macro build?
Well, it's a bit of a different build here from Armani, right? Looks like he's getting quick gas probably, and the pool first.
I wouldn't blame Armani for wanting a different game here.
Yeah. Maybe play a slightly more aggressive game. Do you think there's any chance like Banelings, or does he just want to get quick speed?
I think either's fine. I mean, I think especially after you have two games like that, one game where you get crushed by turtle play into timing push, and the other one you get crushed into turtle play into like end game. You know, really, the game one is really a game about like trying to. You're watching resource usage, and he got played on that one too. I don't blame him if he wants to just try to end a game. Now, he hit a couple lings behind his geyser.
He's making a lot of lings.
So this is going to be an all-in. And again, I do not blame Armani for doing this. I think he's probably – oh, great.
Love this one.
Well, it might be masked perfectly.
I believe we've seen 0 people in GSL hold this so far.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And I think it was Solar who came up with this one. Or he was the first one that showed us, at least, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a funny balancing act where you have just enough drones back at home you can still mine, but you have enough that it makes the math a little bit more fuzzy here.
He's getting ready for it right now. He has a probe waiting. Get it up! Oh, and he holds. Like, I guess there's still some chance he dies, but this is a great start.
That's where I think he has to try to SimCity the oh!
Damn!
SimCity the entrance.
Ridiculously well done. Another depth is going to be popping out. I think he's held it, man. I think Armani is not having a good time
The
here.
edge of that pylon, it doesn't seem like the damage can come in fast enough to curb its growth. Yeah.
A lot more lings being made. He is going to punch through. He is punching through. The probe's coming up to fight.
That was a lot of time for these adepts to shoot down lings, though.
Yeah, all you have to do, though, is hold. That's it.
Yeah.
And wait, is this batter going to finish before that adept dies? Are you kidding me? Oh,
GG.
man.
3-0, making Armani 0-9 in Super Tournament.
Yeah, and he lost 0-3 to a Zerg player, 0-3 to a Terran player, now 0-3 to a Protoss player.
That's rough.
Armani running the gamut of who to lose to.
Nice hold. I don't blame him for rushing. I think most players would have done something similar, like, okay, let's just try the opposite. We can't win in the long games. Let's try a fast one. Does not work. Joan of Archon.
Joan of Archon.
Moving on. One of the Jonas brothers.
He's looking good. Looking strong.
He bopped him.
He did. He really did.
Wow, Zoun of Alpha X defeats Armani in a 3-0 clean fashion. Congratulations. Thank you. Wow, 3-0. Such an easy win for you today, Zoun. How do you feel? Well, first of all, while preparing, I try to focus on the early game.
초반에 이제 마지막 세트만 해가지고 좀 마음 편하게 했던 것 같아요.
So yeah,
사실
it went well.
박한솔 선수가 박준혁 선수에게 갚아줄 게 있었잖아요.
네.
And Zoun, you had to take revenge on Armani, right?
좀 연습하시거나
So did you
있었나요?
prepare especially for the revenge?
분석 자료를 되게 많이 주거든요.
Well, the team gave me a lot of data to analyze.
계속 생각했어요 머릿속에서.
So I kept analyzing that, and then I kept having that in my brain. So I think that's why I won today.
확실히 공허 버프 이후로 공허 운영을
Well, after the void ray buff, it feels like you are utilizing the void ray really well.
이렇게 확실히 초중반에 안정적으로 넘어가니까 후반에도
And it feels like because the Protoss is having a really good early mid game, it transitions to the late game really well.
요즘 굉장히 크거든요. 좀 어떻게 생각하세요?
So what do you think?
일단 공허가 좋긴 해요.
Well, the void ray,
해요.
frankly speaking, is good.
토스가 딱히 공허를 제하면은
And Protoss, except the void ray, is not that good.
버프 너프는 하면 안 될 것 같아요.
So I don't think the void ray should deserve a nerf.
근데 오늘 보니까 후반까지 가실 필요도 없던데요.
But watching you today, the game didn't really have to go to late game.
녹여버리는 거 보니까
The Archons were just destroying everything.
자신 있는 빌드들이 많으실 것 같아요.
일단 빌드를 되게 많이 준비했는데.
Well, I prepared a lot of builds.
그런 것도 다 초반도 있고 후반도 있고
And the builds are
빌드를
like
많이
accustomed to
준비하면서
early game, mid game, late game.
연습을 했는데 진혁이 형이 좀 데스오라비를
But at the end of the day, I did prepare a lot of builds, and he couldn't defend my army at Desora.
네, 오늘 그렇게 강력한 빌드까지도 만나볼 수 있었는데요. 자, 다음 8강 상대는
And your next
김도욱
opponent
선수
in the round of 8
원희삭
will be
선수가
either
됩니다.
Q or
테란,
Parting.
프로토스 또 어떤
So it'll
선수가
be either
들어올까요?
Terran or Protoss you'll be
다
versing. Who do you think
거의 다
you want to
졌거든요.
play against?
맨날 만나면
I always lost to them,
둘다
both of them.
만나기 싫은데
So they, I want to avoid them if possible.
테란이 좋은 것
But if I have to pick
테란이 더
one
낫다.
player,
푸푸도 좀
it would have to be
부담이
Q or Terran player.
이삭이 형이 좀 변태 플레이를 많이
You know,
할 것 같아서
Parting, he goes for the
근데 본인도
unorthodox
한때
plays, which is
견제를
really
많이
hard to deal with.
하셨잖아요.
내로남불입니다.
네. 자, 그러면 다 이렇게 8강에 박하솔 선수가
And now you advance to the round of 8 zone.
8강이니까 그 8강 각오를 마지막으로
So any resolutions for your round of 8?
시드가 4강인데 최소 목표가 4강이고요.
Well, my
4강,
objective is to make it to the round of 4.
네,
and I hope
목표는
to.
4강이
Well,
기본이다라고
we hope you
말씀해
make it to the round of 4
다시
zone.
한번 지지
Once again,
축하드립니다.
congratulations, Zone.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
네, GSL
All right, that does it for our interview. Pretty dominating 3-0 there.
Yeah, looking strong.
Yeah.
Excited to see how far he can go.
Guys, we've got a short break. When we come back, our second best of 5. Don't go away. This is the GSL Super Tournament.